Welcome to the Community Living Education Project's Sharing Possibilities for Community Connections learning event. The Community Living Education Project, also known as CLEP, is a program through Rutgers School of Public Health. CLEP is committed to providing individual guidance, mentoring, and education regarding community living resources for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities living in the state of New Jersey. The CLEP team, many who are family members themselves, can serve as a bridge for families whose loved ones may be seeking residential supports outside of the family's home. Today's webinar, Overview of the Division of Developmental Disabilities Waiver Programs, is being presented by Ms. Nkechi, Okoli, and Ms. Patricia, Brennan, both representing DDD. To ensure the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will be muted during today's event. To interact with the host and presenter, please use the Q&A option on your screen. Topic-specific questions will be addressed as long as time allows. For consideration to all of our attendees, we encourage you to keep your questions as general as possible. At this time, I would like to welcome today's presenters. Nkechi, Patricia, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you so much for having us. Always a pleasure. Again, my name is Nkechi Okoli, and I'm the Senior Coordinator for Transition to 21 Education at the Division. I've done a lot around, just giving education about the division and helping people just understand it a little bit better. And today I am accompanied by my colleague, Patricia. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hi everybody, I'm Trish Brennan. I am the director of the waiting list and any special project. So any special project that comes to the assistant commissioner, my team kind of takes it on, as well as overseeing the waiting list for waiver services.
So today we're going to really just take a moment. Actually, we'll take a moment to really just walk you through our two main programs under our one waiver, but then also talk a little bit about the wait list and how to get on it, what to expect, and so much around that. Okay, so we know that most of you are in our service system. There may be a few that may be transitioning, and that's awesome. So if there is any information that you would like more about, go ahead, put that in the chat. We're happy to answer those questions as well. If you want a little bit more in-depth information, go ahead and ask us. We're here to help and here to make this transition and information as smooth as possible for you. So we'll go ahead, we'll get started. And like I said, as questions arise, feel free to put them in, and we'll have appropriate times throughout the presentation to respond to them. So the first thing that we always like to do with these presentations is really ground what we're doing with the division back to our mission, which is to truly help people have the life that they're looking for, right? That meaningful life in the community that really helps them achieve what their goals are in their lives, right? Our mission at the division is to truly help people have quality services and supports and participate meaningfully in their community and really practice their opportunity to make choices in their lives, right? We are here to be a support to help everyone who is seeking services through us achieve what they're looking for in their life and making sure that they're happy and whole in those areas. So many of you, like I said, are already in our service system. So some of this is going to be review. A lot of the times I talk about the things that we share in a presentation like this as golden nuggets, right? A little bit of information that you may not have known that can help you understand the division a little bit better and how to navigate it more appropriately. So one of the first things that I like to share is that back in, I'll say officially, we fully completed the transition in 2015, and now we continue to work towards it till now, where we're almost completely 100% into the new fee-for-service system. But we are a Medicaid fee-for-service system, and with that being said, it is imperative that all people in our service system obtains and maintains Medicaid. So all of you most likely already have Medicaid, and it's important to maintain it, primarily because that's part of the system that we're in. And with us going into this fee-for-service system, it's given us a great opportunity to not only have a bucket of money that comes from the state, but also have a federal match And so for every 50 cents that we put in, the federal government matches 50 cents, therefore increasing the amount of services we can provide and the number of people. And with us making this transition to fee-for-service, you hopefully have seen that we've had increased flexibility in how people can shape their week, shape the way that they utilize their services, and really direct what their week and what their lives look like a little bit more. We've been able to increase choices and increase the quality of services that people receive. One of the great things that we're going to reference throughout today's presentation is our two manuals, our supports program manual and our community care program manual. Now, both of them are quite lengthy. And usually when I talk about them, I talk about really focusing on section 17, because that has all the services that you might be interested in with the descriptions, as well as how much it would come out of your budgets. However, we know that that can be a little bit lengthy, right? And so one of the things that we also have been able to have with partnerships with our stakeholders is the development of the quick guide for families, which is actually the shorter version, but more condensed version of our supports program and community care program manuals to really get you that information that you just need in order to navigate our system in a smooth way, right? So a lot of what we talk about today, you're going to be able to find information about that in that quick guide. So that can be a great reference for you following today's presentation. So we won't spend too much time on this, but one of the key things with everyone who's receiving services through the division is really to obtain and maintain eligibility. Now, we only provide services for people in New Jersey. They have to obtain and maintain Medicaid, like we mentioned. Their intellectual developmental disability must have occurred prior to the age of 22 and is lifelong. And they must meet functional criteria in 3 of the 7 areas, and you can see that below. Now, for those who are already in our service system, you've already have been determined eligible, which is awesome. And like I said, the only thing that you always want to keep in mind is maintaining Medicaid throughout the time that you're seeking services through the division. So we have 2 main programs under one comprehensive waiver, right? And so a lot of the time people ask those questions of what's the difference between the supports program and the community care program? Are they the same? How can I get on one versus the other? And so this is just a quick snapshot of the 2 programs that we have. Now, for those who were not aware, supports program launched back in 2015. It is a program that can provide us the opportunity that for all people who are eligible for our services to begin to access services immediately as they have been determined eligible and have reached the age of 21. With supports program, there is no waiting list. Yes, you do still have to meet functional criteria, but that's part of eligibility. And it's for people who are in their own home or family home, right? So it's not licensed settings or anything in that nature. And one of the key things is that upon the launch of the supports program, it was in our fee-for-service system. Now, a lot of people may have, way back when, may be more familiar with the community care, used to be called community care waiver, but now is a community care program. And that has been in existence since 1982, okay? So that system is what transitioned into the fee-for-service system. The community care program is the program that is for people who meet the higher level of need. And we're gonna talk about that in just a few minutes. Now, with people who are on the community care waiver, they can be in their own home, in their family home, or in a licensed setting. So the community care program is the opportunity for those people who meet the higher level of need, who need to be in, let's say, a group home or residential placement. Now, like I said, they do need to meet the ICF/ID level of care. There is a waiting list for community care program. They have to be able to meet to be an emergency. So they have to be on the community care waiting list, and we'll talk more about that, or Trish will actually talk more about that as we go through today's presentation. And or meet the top of the waiting list. And so we'll talk about that as we continue to move forward. So this is an excerpt directly from the quick guide. And like I said, the supports program is available for all people who are eligible for our service system. It's an opportunity for those people who are eligible to begin receiving services immediately. So even if you believe that you should be on the community care program, there's been times where people have asked, like, so do I just not accept the supports program? Like, no. Go ahead. Utilize services through the supports program, and we'll talk about how can you get onto the community care waiting list to then be reviewed at the right time to see if you would be eligible to go onto the community care program. But in the meantime, it is very important to go ahead and utilize your services through the supports program and access all the great services that we have to offer. And we'll talk more about what that looks like. Now, this is also the opportunity for those people who may need private duty nursing to also do the supports program, private duty nursing service. And one of the key things about both of our programs is that you can't be on any other waiver program, right? So let's say someone was on MLTSS, they would have to make a decision between MLTSS and coming onto the supports program. And a lot of times you'll just look at the differences in services to determine which one you believe is more suitable for you. We then also have the community care program. And the community care program, again, is for those people who meet the higher level of need. This is where you get those opportunities to be in a group home or a supported living setting, and really just have the opportunity to have a higher budget to support those additional needs that you may have. So I know I kind of mentioned and briefly touched on the fact that in order to be on this community care program, you have to meet the level of care need, which is also referred to as the LOC. And the main things that we look at when discussing that or when reviewing that is reviewing the individual's NJCAT, so the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment Tool scores, as well as reviewing additional documentation and a DDD clinical review. Okay, Trish will definitely talk a little bit more about that as we get further along in our presentation. But it's really important that you understand that it has to meet that higher level of need. A lot of times we think about this or talk about this as in the case that a person was not on the CCP, let's say if they were not getting the home or community-based services, that they would most likely be in a institution or something like that. That is part of the conversation or the review of this level of care in order to determine that this person will be eligible to go onto the community care program. So as you guys may already know and have seen, this is the full list of services that we have available in our service system. And I like to share this because sometimes it may be assumed that you're missing out on accessing services because you're on the supports program versus being on the community care program. And what you can see is that almost all of our services are available in both our supports program and our community care programs. What you'll see is that the biggest difference are two different programs that are available only in the supports program or only on the community care program. Now, the biggest difference that I know a lot of people talk about is, well, the budget is slightly different for the supports program and for the community care program. And you're absolutely right. However, definitely utilizing the budget that you have, because it's based off of the NJCAT assessment and everything that is a part of your application, helps us determine what your tier is going to be, the budget that you'll have. And if you are eligible to go onto the community care program, you will receive the increased budget that you may need in order to thrive. So the last thing that I like to mention a lot of the times is that sometimes it's a misconception that housing support is not available on the supports program side, right? That the only way that I can get housing is if I'm on the community care program. And that's not necessarily true, okay? One of the things I always like to emphasize is that currently we do have what's called the supportive housing connection vouchers that are available for anyone who's determined eligible for our services. So even if you're on the supports program, you do have the opportunity to actually utilize and access a housing voucher if that individual is ready to do so. All they would do is contribute 30% of their income. So even if they're not working, but let's say they're collecting SSI, then SSI would be part of the income that will be reviewed. And they would contribute 30% and still be able to secure their own apartment, or even share an apartment with someone else, and really have that independence that they're looking for. Now, we know that through this series, there's going to be a whole presentation focused on housing. So we're not going to go into too much detail about that, but I do like to share that it is an opportunity for people to get housing support, even on the support program side, right? The main criteria is one, that they must maintain eligibility with the division, right? They must maintain Medicaid. They also must utilize one service outside of support coordination while they're going ahead and accessing the voucher. And from there, they're able to continue to utilize the voucher moving forward, as long as they continue to contribute their 30%. Tricia, do you want to add something?
I'm good for it now.
I wanted to make sure.
I didn't know if it looked like I needed to add something.
No, it's definitely good. So what we're going to do now is really just give you an opportunity to learn more about the community care waiting list, right? Because I know a lot of the times part of the conversation is, hey, I am on the supports program currently, and I'm enjoying and utilizing the services that I have, but I really do believe that I should be on the community care program. How do I get there? What does that look like? What is the process? And what is the community care program? So Trish is going to help us walk through that part so that we have a better understanding of the waiting list and how to get on the community care program. So Trish?
Yep, exactly. So welcome everybody. I'm glad I was able to join you all this morning. I'm going to talk a little bit about how the waiting list has evolved over time. I've seen some questions come through, and there have been some changes throughout time. And regarding the waiting list, regarding what it was called, and especially since we now have 2 waivers, things have significantly changed. So let me just back up a little bit to give you some history. I'm going to move to the next slide first. So Nkechi, if you could just, Nkechi has control of the slides. She's going to go to that next slide. So I'm going to give you the current statistics, give you a little bit of history. I have seen some questions come in, and to the questions that have come in, I tried to answer it right then and there in the chat. But those questions have been this upcoming year and this past year, we've made additional changes, which are pretty cool and amazing because they're technology-based changes. So currently right now, and actually this is not the real time, so I have a real time way to get things, but this is from like 2 weeks ago when we're putting this together. The real time one that Jonathan needed for this morning's budget briefing was a couple people off. So it's the amount of people who are on the waiting list, the amount of people who are on the priority waiting list, the amount of people who are on the general waiting list. So for the waiting list, it used to be known as the waiting list for residential services, or the waiting list for the community care program. It was the CCW waiting list. We've kind of made some changes, and in 2012, it was amended. If you look at our division circular number 8, it has all of the regulations that surround the priority waiting list and how you get on it and the next steps. The actual piece of getting on it goes through our community development unit. And they hold, if it's someone who does not meet all of the criteria that are written down in our circular, somebody has to go through the waiting list review team. If it meets all the criteria that are in the circular, and the primary one that people get automatically on is that both parents are over the age of 55. And many times these questions about the priority waiting list come through intake, and intake asks those questions and people get on the priority list. When folks had case managers and IHP, so I'm taking this back to time a little bit, but for those of you who are familiar with our service system, many times this was a question that is asked: is are people on the priority waiting list? but now we have 2 waivers. So in the recent year, so in 2019, we did outreach to everybody who was on the priority waiting list and offered them support programs. We had 2 waivers, and we wanted to give them some sort of service while they were waiting for the waiver service that they were most eligible for to receive. So again, if you meet specific criteria, you are eligible for the community care program. So if we could go to the next slide, Nkechi, that'd be awesome. There we go. So what are our annual procedures and for reaching people on the list? So every year, an annual ranking letter goes out to the families who are on the priority waiting list. In this past year was a little different because it's based upon the budget fiscal year, and our budget fiscal year didn't change till October this year. So the letters went out in August. Other years they have gone out in June. We are anticipated. I've just sent the letter up to to Sarah and everybody at the higher level, to our commissioner, our assistant commissioner, for final approval for the next letter. So we're on target, like we would any other year, for these letters to go out in June. One of the questions that came in was, where are the can a support coordinator know about the letters and the rank and if someone's on the list? This past year, the second the letters went out, we had them auto-populated, so they were uploaded into the iRecord, into the person's file. So a support coordinator could look and see that something new was uploaded into the system. And so when they went out, the day that they went out in the mail, we were able to push the button and we manually stuffed those envelopes. So my team and I were just talking this morning of how we're going to do this, because past year we had to do it not all in a big room, having a work session set up and make manual stuffing of the envelopes. We actually have to stagger each other coming in and out and organizing the next steps. But the second that those letters go out in the mail and into the physical mail, there's an auto population of the mail merge that goes into and uploads each letter into the iRecord, so a support coordinator can see that their family got that letter. So if you're a family that knows that you're on the priority waiting list, and you didn't get your letter, maybe you didn't update your, we all get a lot of mail. So maybe you didn't update your contact information, or maybe somebody in the house just kind of like, oh, another, solicitation and threw it out. The support coordinator will be able to pull that letter up from the iRecord, from our system, to see what information was sent directly to you. That letter has your number on it. So in 2020, we mailed those letters out in August. We're scheduled this June to send the next batch of letters, and they will be as close to real time as possible, as to where you are on the list, how many people are on the list, and to give families kind of a sense of where we are and the next steps. So that being said, what happens? You get your list, and then how do I get reached on the list? And what does that mean if I get reached on the list? So so this is all based upon the budget. So again, budget hearings for today, when the budget is finally approved, we can outreach to our next batch of people. Each year, it depends upon the budget as to how many people we can outreach to. And that's all based upon advocacy and the legislature. So the past few years, we've been able to outreach to 200 people and reach them on the priority waiting list and offer them the waiver services in which they're most eligible for. So the individuals who are reached, I anticipate, as long as all the budget hearings go according to plan, we'll probably have, each year depends upon the year and our budget, but last year and the year before, we had 200 people that we outreached to from the top of the priority list. And once that happens, once we get the go ahead, so this past year, we weren't able to move forward with our next batch of people until after the budget was signed off on, which is October. Other years, it's been July, so we start our initial outreach and divvying up our caseloads in August, September. And sometimes we stagger it depending upon what the assistant commissioner and the commissioner wants to do. If we do 50 in one chunk of the year, 50 in the next. Once somebody is reached on the priority waiting list, they are assigned a transition case manager. That person works with them through the process, works in tandem with their support coordinator. So Nkechi, if you could go to that next slide, that would be awesome. So that transition case manager will work with their support coordinator. If they have a support coordinator assigned, some people are still on inactive cases, so they'll be the outreach to them and offer them support program. And then they work with the support coordinator. They get the information about each of the families. If they're looking for, ask them about what services and supports they're looking to receive. If we're not sure if they meet the current level of care for the community care program, at the time that they're reaching the priority waiting list, they can work with the transition case manager and request a level of care review. And that level of care review, they will go through the NJCAT, which is the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment Tool. They will meet with or virtually meet with their transition case manager and go through their exact needs and supports that they're looking to receive and what the next step would be. So at that time, a level of care review can be done if it's not really clear as to if their community care program or support program works for the most waiver applicable steps. So once the appropriate waiver plan is approved, the next steps would be that they would work with their transition case manager to access them, the appropriate, either CCP or the sports program with a housing voucher, and move forward. And then once the plan is approved in the appropriate waiver, then they are removed from the transition case manager's caseload. So we kind of move through the process as we go through, and then once they're removed from the priority list, we can move on to the next batch of people. So again, the ultimate goal nationwide is for people to be able to be available all of this, the waiver services that they're eligible to receive. But right now, as we're moving through, there is a waiting list for the appropriate waiver program. Nkechi, if you could go to the next slide, we'd greatly appreciate it as well. So again, everybody who is on the priority list needs to have Medicaid. And we also need to make sure that we work each family through the process from the start to finish. We are working on developing right now, as we speak, a frequently asked questions about the community care program waiting and the priority waiting list and the support program and the priority waiting list and what it means to be on the priority waiting list and what folks are waiting for. Because many times families don't even know that they're on the list or why they got on the list or what they're looking to receive or what that means. So really kind of going through those next steps, and our transition case manager walk through the families each step of the way as they're going through the process in tandem with the support coordinator as to what they're eligible to receive, how they can access next services and supports, and getting folks the most out of their community as we move forward to the next piece. So again, we wanted to really touch base on this. A lot of folks ask really good questions as many people have gotten on the community care program waiting list or the CCW waiting list, as it was known, or they're on a waiting list and they don't know why. They've got so many questions. Want to really touch base because it has evolved over time. Over time, it is shifted because we have 2 waivers now. But many people that we're reaching we're only at 2009. So we didn't have 2 waivers when they got on the priority list. They weren't sure what they are eligible to receive. So we really want to make sure that folks have the best information, the most accurate information as to when the ranking letters go out, what that ranking number means, and next steps. So again, in summary, you're going to develop your ideal week. Kind of ending this up for Nkechi, so if she wants to add anything at the end, that would be awesome. Understand your services that are available and make sure that you can adjust your plan as necessary.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you so much, Trish. I think that was a wealth of information. And if you don't mind, there are a few questions that I think would be appropriate to respond to right now, if you want to. One person, I think you kind of alluded to it, they asked, what is the average waiting, time frame for someone who's on the priority list to get to the top of the list? They said, I'm afraid that we'll be not here when my daughter's number moves to the top. So do you have an average time frame?
So what I can tell you for the time frame, for the questions that I was just trying to look at the chat as Nkechi was reading out loud. So the time frame depends upon the budgetary year. So there have been years where we've been able to reach 500 people because there was a huge push of advocacy, and there was additional funding for the priority list. So I can tell you that as part of our DD budget briefing, I put together our statistics. I worked with our CFO, Patricia as to how to make sure that, it's accounted for, but it all depends upon our budget. So in the past few years, past 3 years, we've been able to outreach to 200 people. I believe the year before that, we were able to outreach, there was additional funding for the priority waiting list. We were able to outreach to 450 people. So it all does depend upon the number, the amount of dollars that are in the budget. So that's the one for the time frame.
Yeah,
And look at some of the. Trying to see what other questions are in the chat or the Q&A. I did see Nancy Kopstein. I saw one from you. Hi, Nanny, by the way. So it was a question about unlicensed and licensed at CCP. You can be on the community care program and be in an unlicensed setting and utilize supports and services.
And then there's one other one here that says, we're thinking of retiring to PA to be closer to family. Do other states have a program like the priority waiting list? And if so, do we have to start all over?
Okay. Do families have the same program? So do other states have the same program? Each state has something a little bit different, but very similar. So it depends upon the state. So some states, people are waiting to actually have a waiver slot. Where in New Jersey, we have 2 waivers. So it depends upon the waiver in which we have. So I'm looking to see here. If both persons' parents turn 55, what is the process to move from the general list to the priority list? What are the requirements? There is a form, it is online, and you can complete that information and submit it. It's online. I can't, while I'm presenting, click and get that into the chat, but there is a way to do that. And your support coordinator can help guide you through that. There was a question, who do providers reach out to within DED when they have a vacancy that's developed within one of our homes? Actually, there are multiple, it's just Sheneville. Sheneville is one of the people that you can reach out to, but there are many folks that you can reach out to within program development as well. So if you just, if it's a new program, you can reach out to someone in program development. You can also reach out to folks who are working with it. You can work with anyone on our team as well as support coordinators. But if it's new development, program development is the best place to go. But interesting and opening.
One of our participants asked, do you need a specific, disability to be added to the list?
You just need to be eligible for the DDD services. Right? So it's, over the age of 21, meet all of our intake eligibility pieces.
And I'm not sure if this probably will be answered in the housing webinar later on, but this question is, how is matching done with CCP to ensure residents are compatible? I think that's probably something that would probably be answered in our next presentation. Well, not ours, but in Courtney's presentation, but I don't know if you have any information or insight on that.
I'm looking to see any other questions that are. I mean, also with some of the matching pieces, the transition case manager and the support coordinator would work with the families as to helping explore different locations. Many of my staff prior to COVID did a lot of tours with folks and families and kind of help families and their support coordinators guide them through, okay, so what is it that you're looking for? Now you are eligible for that full budget, that full tier budget, not just the support program, but the full tier budget. Are you looking for in-home supports? Are you looking for, or do you want to start exploring the different options that are out there, whether it be a licensed setting, an unlicensed setting? You are now eligible for individual supports, not just community-based supports. The myriad of supports and services that are in our manual, you'll be able to see. And if you're eligible for the community care program and your name comes up on the priority waiting list, you're eligible to receive all those supports and services in your tiered budget. So your support coordinator would help you find and figure out the next steps and how it is you want to choose your life. So you really want to be dreaming as well. You really want to, if somebody is reached on the top of the list, or even if you're on the list and you know that you're looking for that next step in the community care program, start thinking about what is it that I want to achieve, or as a person, what is it that my son or daughter, if you're represented, looking to achieve in their next step of their life. How can I make it work for me? Where do I want to go? What are my dreams? What don't I want in my life? What do I want in my life? How do I get there? What are my next steps? It's not just, okay, so now I've reached on the priority list. Here's my menu of services. No, here's what I want to do. How can you help me get there? Because I can use individual supports. I can have, additional forms of respite. I can now have, more support as I am captured within every aspect of my own community. How can I have all those pieces support me, be a fully contributing member that I want to be in my own community? So really figuring those pieces out, and that it's really critical to start thinking about that now, as if you do know you are on the priority list, or if you're looking to be on the priority list, how do I want to get there? What's it going to be? What's it going to do for me? Why do I want to be on the list? Why do I think that community care program services are what I'm looking for and I would be eligible for them? How do we get there? And once I'm reached and that transition manager reaches out to me, how can I, figure out the next steps as I move with my support coordinator? These are the things I want to get out of having that fully engrossed community care program. So it's in lieu of being in a residential institutional type setting. That's what the community care program is. You meet that level of care for institutional placement, but you're fully engrossed and supported within your community.
And Tricia, we do have the DDD Housing Subsidy Program webinar coming up on May 18th. So I would strongly encourage everyone who signed up for today's presentation to look at that email that was sent to you. You have the opportunity to sign up for the additional sessions in this series. So that might be really helpful with some specific questions around the housing program.
So, okay, so the question, I see that there's some more questions coming in, so I'm trying to read them as I'm answering. So where do we find the manual that is on our website? Both manuals are available to you on our website.
They are also very Google friendly. So once you type it in, it's the first thing that will pop up as well.
I will reattach the quick guide for families into the chat section for everyone also.
There was also a question that asked, is there a general email that a family can use to connect to, I guess, ask questions about the priority waiting list? Is there a wait list, I guess, email?
There is not. There is a email that goes directly to the people who, when you're applying for the waiting list. So if you're applying to be on the priority list, there is an email for that. We do not have a general email for any questions that come to us, but you can always email me, and I'm going to put my email in the chat right here now. So I can do that as well. And then I see another question that says, families at times request to begin looking for a group home before their son or daughter has been accepted in the CCP. Can it be clarified that looking for a group home should take place once the person has reached the top of the list or has been assigned to a CCP? So yes, you can look and see, if what it is that you're looking to have, but you wouldn't be eligible to receive a license type setting until you reach the top of the priority list or have been deemed an emergency. Right now, I'm just typing in my email address into the chat.
And then I know this, and this is not specific to you, Trish, so you can probably take a quick 2-second break. It's how to apply for Medicaid. And so there's definitely different Medicaid waiver programs that your son or daughter might be eligible for. You would definitely just, it's very Google friendly. If you just go onto Google, NJ Family Care, you'll be able to look up the application and get more information about it. There are some families or some individuals who may be eligible for SSI specifically, and you would fill out the application for that and go through that process. There are some people who might be eligible for other Medicaid waiver programs, and so starting that as soon as you feel necessary is definitely appropriate to see which is the right Medicaid waiver program for you. Did you have anything you want to add to that, Trish?
I did see a couple more questions come in the chat, so I wanted to see if I can try to answer them to the best of my ability. One question is, if we are on the waiting list, do we have an assigned contact person? For the waiting list to be, there is not an assigned contact person if you're just on the waiting list. Once you have been reached on the list, you will have an assigned contact person. But if you're on the waiting list, you will receive a ranking letter. So if you're on the priority waiting list, you will receive a ranking letter sometime in June. If everything goes well. 1 year we didn't have any paper, so we couldn't send letters out right away. We had to wait till the new budget was signed in the first week of July. But you will receive a letter and it will be automatically uploaded so that your support coordinator can see it as well. So that, but once somebody is reached at the top of the list, you will have a contact person, and you get a letter that says you've been reached, and here's your contact person. It will come directly from your contact person. So once we get the go ahead and the budget is approved for us to move forward with how many people, which I don't know yet. We don't know as to how many people we can reach next year. We divvy up the caseloads and figure out what we're kind of told when we can start to send those letters out, if it has to be staggered with the funding levels, or if we can do it all at once. Some years we've had to stagger it out, so we spend the money throughout the year, and some years it's been do it all at once because it is additional funding. Yes, we do get a federal match, but it is additional funding for folks to be supported, fully immersed in their communities.
So I see another question here that is asking, at what point should we be applying to DVD? At what age will the benefits begin? And so definitely, if you're not already in the division and already utilizing services, that is important for you to go ahead and get started with the application process starting around the age of 18. There's 4 steps transitioning into the adult system. Step 1, applying for Medicaid or SSI. Step 2, completing the DVD application, which you can find on our website. We now have the short and the long and the full application. Step 3 is completing what's called the New Jersey Comprehensive Assessment Tool, the NJCAT, that helps determine your tier and your budget. And then step 4 is completing the selection form. So if you're not familiar, you would be assigned a support coordinator, or you select a support coordinator rather, someone who's similar to a case manager you may be familiar with, but we refer to them more as a care manager. They help you navigate our service system, but then also help you with the development and completion of the individual service plan, similar to the IEP that you're familiar with. So if your son or daughter is already 18, I would say go ahead and get started. If they're older, at any point that you're ready to utilize services, begin those steps and just do them one after the other. If you're talking more about getting onto the waiting list, then you can follow everything that Trish already mentioned and go to our website and go through the process of joining the waiting list.
So we have some other questions coming in the Q&A section also. I'm not sure if you covered this or not when I was scrolling through the other questions. Can you talk a little bit about the criteria and process of applying for an emergency CCP?
So the emergency process, it is all again available on our website. And you would need it, if you have a support coordinator, you would work with them to start the process.
Perfect. And if We have someone whose son is on the father's insurance until the age of 26. Does this person still need to apply for Medicaid? They're asking.
Yes, is the answer.
And in those cases, just for everyone's knowledge, there are many people who are in our service system who may have like private insurance and then also have Medicaid. So it may be okay for him to maintain that. We are not experts on that, but it may be okay for them to maintain that and get Medicaid in order to access our services.
So another question I'm seeing come in is that does the number of emergency placements affect how many individuals get reached on the waiting list each year? So that's a great question. We kind of build that in as a buffer. So that's why I said we would work with our chief financial officer, because my staff and myself are more of the programmatic people. So they figured out all the numbers. They have a whole spreadsheet that does all kinds of pivot tables that I kind of just plugged stuff into to make sure that, you know, amount of people that we reach, and so they build that in. But yes, that would have some sort of an impact, but it's built into how many people we actually reach. So the answer to that is a little more complicated, but based upon advocacy each year and based upon, you know, what we've been doing the past few years and what the national trends are as well. So we listen to what our current government is as to what the next steps would be and the dollars that are spent. So I know that's a lengthy answer, but so that it does, but it doesn't. So we build that buffer in of emergency placements as we're looking forward.
So Tricia, I think, can you also expand a little bit at CLEP when we're exploring community living options with the families that we support? Quite often we get asked for a list of group homes or unlicensed homes that families can reach out to. Can you talk a little bit more about what that process actually looks like for families?
So if the process of looking at the different group homes, is that what you're asking about?
Yeah, I think a lot of times individuals and families think that there is just sort of a master list that is going to be handed to them in regards to the different community living options.
And so that's where I wanted to get into
Can you
more
bring
of,
some
like,
clarity?
what is it that you're looking for? Like, what it's not just a menu. It's what is it you're looking for, and what's going to meet your needs best. We're really moving towards this as we move. One of the other things that I've been overseeing is the movement from fee for service. We're almost our whole entire system. We're about 100 people left to convert, and that's it. So we've been working, again, one of the special projects my team is working on is moving everybody over to the fee for service system. That means that you have choice. You have choice in who provides your services, where your service is provided. So it's not just cookie cutter like it was before. Before it was a contracted program, and that's what you went to, whether it be day program or otherwise. Back in, I'm going to date myself here, 2004, actually 2003, 2004, we sat down with a core group of family members, and they said to us, if you give us the dollars, we could do this better. So we started the process of going down the road of people, being creative and self-directing and in charge of their budgets, and moved the whole entire system to fee for service. So everything is based upon that. So it no longer is, these are who provides the services, this is who we contract with. It is, what are you looking for? This is what we can do within our waiver parameters. So we do have parameters based upon the community care program and the supports program, but you really can build what it is that you're looking to achieve. So there isn't there is a list of people who do provide services, but you really want to start thinking, what do I want? How do I want to get there? What do I need? And again, many times CLEP can help us along the way, because families don't even know, what type of neighborhood am I looking for? What type of a home am I looking for? Who provides supports where? What types of agencies are in different areas? What might work for me? Because what might work for me might not work for Nkechi, might not work for Melanie. But we may all have the same, NJCAT score and tier, but we want completely different things with our lives. So we really want to figure out, yes, there are folks who provide these supports and services, and there are different parameters around them. Licensed, unlicensed, having different aspects. But again, it really want people to start to take a step back think about what is it that I'm looking to have in my life that can meet that, I need some waiver supports to get there. And how can I have that happen? So CLEP has been really instrumental in helping us educate people as to what it is they're looking for and help them see, different venues that, for lack of a better word, the venue that they're looking at, whether it be a supported house, seeing the supportive living location, whether it be an apartment, whether someone needs, more support or wants a roommate or doesn't want a roommate, or they want to live in a small town or a farm area, or what they're looking to have, and they're helping people explore and see different aspects of where people live and what the next steps may be. Because sometimes families aren't really even sure. We may be on the top of the list. They're like, I think I want a group home, but I'm not sure. Maybe I want an apartment. I don't know what it is that I'm looking for. And clubs been like, well, let's take you out and let's just explore what different things look like. So when you're looking to the future, or even if you're on the list and you get called, instead of reach the top of the list, they can help you see, okay, this is what I know I want. You can maybe they'll walk into one home and be like, oh, I don't want anything like this. Or they walk that same tier level person may be like, this is exactly what I want. So
I think when, just to share a brief story, when we were being supported by CLEP prior to me working for CLEP for my son, that's one of the things that Natalie from CLEP was able to really support us with in exploring different options. And we often say that families and, if you haven't experienced something, you don't know what you don't know. And to be mentored and guided, we can, through CLEP, really help support those families by asking a lot of questions so that they can better identify with their loved one that they're supporting what is going to make this person happy and have a full life, right? Community-based life. So it's really asking a lot of those questions, right? Doing that one-page profile, exploring different options that is going to hopefully lead to an outcome that's going to be successful for everyone involved in the process. So absolutely, I think exploring is one of the key things that we speak to families about at this point. What do the different options even look like? It's hard to visualize what this could look like for some families. So absolutely, we're absolutely there to support them, and information sessions like this that you and Nkechi are offering is what's going to lead to better outcomes for people's future. I do see one of the questions that came in, someone's sound was cutting in and out. If we could just address that question again, if you haven't already. It says, my daughter is under the supports program, and I have found that her budget is divided into distinct parts. One part that is available for goods and services and other community-based activities, and another part that is available for therapy and other individual services. And funds cannot flow between the two parts. Is this correct? Can you explain how this works? Is this something that the two of you would be willing to address during this session, or is it going to be addressed during the next presentation?
I can address the fact that there are distinct pieces of each budget, and for lack of a better word, they frequently referred to as buckets. So there are different sections of the budget that are to be utilized for different pieces of a person's life. I do want to refer everybody back to the manual, because that gives the most clear-cut description of why it's divvied up and what you can use each section for. So each manual there's a section in there that explains those pieces. So that would be your best place to go for that. And yes, you are correct in that interpretation of your budget. I hope that answers your question. And Nkechi, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Now, and this is where your support coordinator can definitely be of support, because there are a few things that you may utilize, utilizing your services, that once one budget area is used to its completion, that sometimes it goes into the other area, but there are only specific services that do that. And so your support coordinator can definitely help you with understanding how that would operate appropriately.
I'm trying to read some of the questions.
Mhm.
We're getting a couple more coming in, so
We're
I'm
coming in
trying to.
pretty quick.
I don't know if I can read as quickly as. Okay, so
Okay.
so the one question that just got asked is, so you know what your son or daughter wants in their life. When you have ideas of what your son or daughter wants, needs, and you're on the sports program, is the support coordinator supposed to be able to help you find the services? So what I do want to talk a little bit about, and this is actually a segue because I am going to be giving another one at May, is it 24th or 26th, Melanie?
I want to say it was the 25th, but I will.
Okay, so
I
hey,
will look.
right,
I will look.
it probably is the 25th. I probably told you I had something going on both those other days.
It's
So
the 25th.
right, am I right? Okay, so it's the 25th. That if somebody, you know what you want in your life, and your support coordinator acts as your scribe, they're going to get you in the services and supports. They may not be able to help you find the exact service. And yes, it does put a lot on the individual and the guardian. We do have another service that is newer to the division that can be utilized, and that's support brokerage service. So it's kind of give you a little bit of a, brief teaser. We're going to be talking a lot more about that in the next session on the 25th. But that would be somebody that you can utilize your budget to hire to help you figure that out, because we do know that families, if you know what it is that you're looking for, but it takes a lot of onus to get to that piece, and it's a lot of work as a parent to figure all those pieces out. And also sometimes it's nice to have somebody with fresh eyes who isn't engrossed in the family situation every single day to help you through that process. The support coordinator is going to help you figure out what services you're looking for. But we all three, I'm looking, I can see Melanie and Nkechi and myself, we all may want the same service, but we all may want a different type of provider, and tell them to help us figure out what type of provider or person provides that service. You could hire, if it's too much for a family member, it's a lot of work for a family member to do, and it would be easier or just more productive and expedient for another entity to provide that. We do have support brokerage as a service now that can be utilized and purchased out of somebody's budget. So that's just a little teaser. If you want more information on that, tune in on the 25th, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that as well.
Awesome. I know I also see a question here that says, once the NJCAT is complete, how long before one should select a support coordination agency? And so definitely, if someone has completed the NJCAT and they're in the transition phase, meaning that, and we use transition in so many different ways, right? So if they are under the age of 21, and let's say they're doing the application process at between 18 and 21, then they would wait to do the support coordination agency selection form until they're closer to turning 21. So if they're still in the school system, that last year of educational entitlement, they would put in their selection form by March, and then they would have their support coordinator, and that support coordinator can work with them as they graduate and then have an approved plan. But if this is after that, and let's say they're, I don't know, 22, 25, 30, 40, whatever the case may be, once they've completed the NJCAT and they've been determined eligible for our services, because the first 3 steps is what helps determine eligibility, then you would receive a form to complete, which is the support coordination agency selection form, to go ahead and select a support coordination agency. So if it's been some time, especially if you did already receive an eligibility letter and you have not completed that, then I would definitely recommend reaching out to the intake worker that you've been in contact with and asking for that selection form to go ahead and take the next steps.
And just so everyone knows, I am actually just included in our chat section the Community Living Education Project's website. I know we've been getting a couple of questions about CLEP, so I'm going to leave that as a resource. I'm also going to drop my cell phone number along with Natalie Trump's cell phone number in that chat section also. So if anyone's looking for any additional resources or supports directly from CLEP, they can reach out that way. I'll drop that here. And Nkechi, Tricia, is there any other questions, any last thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
The only thing I wanted to share really quickly are just the resources that we have at the end, and then I open the floor back up to Trish if she has any last thoughts. So like I said, we shared the quick guide earlier, and I know Melanie went ahead and shared it with you guys in the chat as well. This is what it looks like. So if you don't want to go through the larger manual, because again, it is a little bit lengthy, this is definitely a great intro to everything that the division has to offer. And so if you want more information, then definitely going into the larger manual, but this is definitely a great resource. Here are some of the other guides that help you really with the selection process. Like I said, I know the people who are on today's call range from coming into our service system to being in it for some time. So as Trish mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, the choices that the person who's utilizing services are immense. You know, you can choose your provider, you can choose your support coordination agency, you can make choices along the way. And even if you're working with someone right now as a support coordination agency and it's not meeting your needs, you can always make a switch. Same thing with your provider. If you find that there's a better provider out there that has availability, you can make those switches. These two guides have been developed for us through the Bog Center that have some great questions and things that you may want to think about the current providers you have, and or if you're seeking providers, if you're seeking support coordination agencies. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And then the thing that I always mention, going to our website, we have a wealth of information there. And then if you do want to stay up to date with what's going on with the division, again, we continue to refine our services, continue to refine how we produce them and provide them to all of you, especially in these times where adjustments have been made for the safety of all. We're always giving you up-to-date information. And so joining our email list by going to ddd.communications@DHS is really helpful for you to just get information about what's going on with the division, know about webinars that are coming out, and really hearing from our Assistant Commissioner, Jonathan Seafried, about what we're doing as a division on a regular basis. Here are the links to the larger manuals if you so choose. And then again, to stay up to date with what providers we have available throughout the division, you can go ahead to the provider search database and be able to see the up-to-date list of our approved providers. And I think that's it. These are some additional resources that were within today's presentation. And we appreciate your time and staying throughout today's presentation. Trish, do you have anything else you would like to add?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out to this webinar today. Also welcome you to send me an email if you have additional questions, whether it be regarding the priority waiting list. I do have a team of folks who are working on fee-for-service conversion, a couple of the special projects, as well as the priority waiting list that we all are very engrossed with working on and making sure that we get all the information out there to the best of our ability as things have evolved. Again, just want to thank you all, and hopefully I'll see as many of you as possible on the 25th if you're interested in support brokerage and self-directing services. Just to kind of give you a little preview. Again, enjoy the rest of your day, and I welcome any questions or feedback you have for us.
Patricia and Nkechi, we want to take the time from the whole CLEP team to thank you both again for offering this information. Extremely valuable. I'm seeing all incredible responses. We hope that everyone that is joining us today will be able to join us for the rest of the series. Again, you can sign up for those other parts of the series using the same email. We will also send out additional webinar reminders if you haven't yet registered. All the sessions are taking place from 12 to 1 on the Tuesdays in the month of May. So again, thank you for attending part 1. As we get ready to say goodbye and sign off today, a brief survey is going to pop up on your screen. We encourage you to take 30 seconds just to complete that. It's really CLEP's mission to provide information sessions that are identified in regards to the needs of the community. So thank you again for everyone for joining us. We look forward to next Tuesday's session, and please be well. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye all. Thank you so much.
Be well.